He said the purported right to abortion is not a form of liberty. I was so happy. I love the fact that Justice Clarence Thomas, who is a practicing Catholic, I've met Clarence Thomas. I once had dinner with Clarence Thomas, and we had, let's see, our fourth baby. That's Jude, was a baby. It was my wife and the little baby, Jude, and me. And I remember Clarence Thomas was so kind, and he came over to our baby and was talking to us and playing with the baby and all that. He's just a really nice gentleman. I was impressed with him personally, not at all pompous or thinking of more than himself, even though he's a Supreme Court justice. So I think just a good man. Love Clarence Thomas. He says in this decision, a purported right. And I'm glad that was placed in there, because a purported right is not a real right. You've heard me say it before. All rights come from God. There is no right that is not based on what God grants to us as a right. Does that make sense? You can't say, well, I have the right to blankety blank, 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 if God did not first establish those rights. See, rights are based in natural law. People always ask, you say you're a doctor, what's your PhD in? My PhD is on Thomas Aquinas, on the twofold beatitude of man, in relationship to natural law, right? That's what I wrote on. That's what I studied. That's my forte. Thomas Aquinas in natural law. And that's why I always say you can't have rights unless they are given by God. So Clarence Thomas is correct here. You can't say, I have a right to dismember, to murder another human being, whether it's in a womb or somewhere else. I have a right to do that if God didn't give you that right. It's also funny to hear atheists, non-believers, to talk about rights. Where do those rights come from? Do you just make them up? If you make them up, we can unmake them up. If you make up your rights, well, I can make up my rights. You know, Adolf Hitler can make up his rights of what he thinks are the rights due to persons. He can even define who's a person and who's not a person, which is exactly what the pro-choice agenda has done. So one of the things I think we need to do in the pro-life movement, because it's not over, right? This doesn't make abortion illegal all over the world or all over America. It just kicks it to the states. It doesn't make it a constitutional right. So we still got a big battle. We need to talk about when life begins, which is conception. We also need to talk about the nature of rights. What is a right? And we need to pull the carpet out beneath all these people who believe that there is no God and what a right is or is not. They're all on Twitter right now. You can go on there. It's a big old hoo-ha on Twitter. My rights, my rights, my rights. No, you don't have those rights. Your rights come from God. By the very definition of a right, and rights have obligations, two sides of the coin. As soon as you start saying, I have rights, you start saying there is a God. And once you say there is a God, there is a morality. And if you're doing something that's immoral and sinful, you do not have the right to do it. Error has no rights. Sin has no rights. Murdering of a child has no rights. So let's focus on, when does life begin? What is a human? What is a baby? But we also need to talk about what is a right. And I like how Clarence Thomas said the purported right to abortion is not a form of liberty. In other words, it's not a right. It's a purported right. Because murdering a human infant is never anybody's right.